Hi there, it's Keith Hayden, the digital novelist, and in this video, I'm going to give you the top 3 things that I've learned from writing my novel, Gates of Okinawa, for 100 days straight. And hopefully, what I've learned will help you on your novel writing journey. If you like all things novel writing, subscribe to this channel or go to my website where I've set up a special toolkit called Digital Novelist Explorer. It's going to give you everything you need to get started on your novel today. But let's get right into this journey of 100 days. And what's interesting about this isn't just 100 days of steady state. I just decided to write a novel and nothing else is happening in my life. In the last 100 days, I've moved countries, which means, of course, I've moved houses. You can see me still sitting in this very improvised setup right now, but that's okay. At least I can still record and do things like this. But I've also been through one of the sickest periods in my life. I got sick for about a good 2 or 3 weeks, and it took me a while to recover, so I could barely write. I wasn't able to do a lot of anything during that time, and of course, just the process of moving and getting settled in a new place. So, this is quite a feat for even me. I think this is a record for even me. I don't think I've written a lot of books and I've written novels in the past, and I don't think I've ever done this long of a streak before. And so let me talk about the 3 things that I learned, the top 3, because there's a lot of things that I learned, but I didn't want this video to be too long. The first thing that I learned is that AI will not make you a better writer, and it will surely not make you a more efficient writer. So if you go back on this channel a couple of months, you'll find a couple of videos for what I was calling then a course called How to Write a Best-Selling Novel with AI. I since have changed the name on that course, and if I could, I would go back and I could probably go delete those videos, but I no longer I no longer want to use AI for writing novels or writing fiction. And let me give you a little bit more backstory. So, the reason why I started writing Gates of Okinawa, this supernatural horror novel, is that I saw a James Patterson book in the library a couple of months ago. Now, if you're not familiar with James Patterson's process, it's pretty famous at this point. The fact that he's famous because he doesn't really write his novels anymore. He fiercely outlines them and then outsources them to a team of writers or sometimes other up and coming writers to get them to write the novels for him, basically. But it's James Patterson's name and whoever other person he wrote with. Now, I was thinking that I could write a similar type of genre fiction, that I could do it fast, because that's not really my style. My fiction tends to lean more towards the literary style, where it's going to be different every time. It's hard for me to get a formulaic thing going. And one, I realized that I don't really like that style of writing in the past 100 days, but I was really doing a test to see how much I could push using the AI to write a novel. And this had been kind of a culmination of the entire year's work, where I've been slowly testing the AI, giving it more and more things to do with fiction. So early in the year, I started with a lot of microfiction, and I did a lot of microfiction last year. I did a few short stories that were AI assisted. And I'll be honest, for shorter form stuff, AI is not that bad because it can keep up with the context. It can, if it can see the whole picture, then it can write something good. But that's with a lot of extensive prompting, by the way. You're not going to just write me a short story about X and then it's going to give you a good one. It probably won't. But when it came to writing a novel, I had never really tested it before because novels, of course, are longer. It requires the AI to have more context and all these other technical things. Well, it turns out that my original thought was right, that AI kind of shits the bed when it comes to writing long form. And there's a lot of reasons why. That's not really what this video is about. But long story short is that for me personally, this is a personal decision, and you'll see a lot of opinions about AI writing online, and it's good, it's bad, it's evil, whatever, it's soulless. You'll hear all this shit. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm just here to talk about my experience and what it was for me, and it just didn't work for me. As a matter of fact, I wrote the first 20 chapters of my current novel with pretty much exclusively AI. And I remember writing them in about a week and thinking, "Ooh, I got all this stuff done." I'd written like, I don't know, 20,000 words or something. And it's on paper, it sounded impressive until I went back to go read the stuff. And what I found was it was just a lot of basically fluff. There were a lot of words that in isolation might sound good. Even a few phrases or paragraphs might sound good, but there was no connective tissue. There wasn't a lot of course, there's no intentionality because the AI is just a statistics machine and it's not thinking about word choice or alliteration. It's just thinking, oh, this normally comes after this in fiction, and so it writes it this way. And so what it did was it flattened my style, it flattened my story, it certainly flattened the characters. Flat is the right word to use. Nothing really popped out of the page, for better or worse. It was almost better to write something bad than just use the AI because it was just so flat and kind of weak. I did not like the writing style, and I have since had to go back and rewrite all of those chapters, and I still haven't finished rewriting all those chapters. I think I've rewritten 15 of the original chapters that I wrote. So that was a hard lesson to learn, but it was a good one because, of course, this technology is still new, and the jury's out on when, maybe next year it will be capable of producing something, like a Harry Potter or War and Peace or whatever. But at this point, it's just not worth it, and I've spent a lot of time going back and correcting that mistake. So that's lesson number one. The second lesson is, and I wrote these things down, is really just having built that habit throughout that kept me going. Because as you can imagine, this was not an easy time to be writing a novel. It certainly wasn't convenient. And at the same time, and by the way, of course, if you've been following me online at all, this is probably not the first time you've heard about this project. It's because I'm writing the novel as I'm talking about it and pumping it up online and writing posts on X, Twitter, making videos like this on YouTube. These things take work, and they take time away from actually writing the book. And so I've put a lot of work into those things as well, and I don't regret it because this is how things work now when it comes to, if you are a serious fiction writer and you are looking to actually sell your book eventually, or whether you want to go traditional publishing or you just want to self-publish, or you just want people to read it online, if you just want to put it up on any site and serialize it, then you need people to know about it first. And after it's done is not a good time to cold start advertising it. I learned this lesson the first time with my first novel. So that's the second lesson, is that yes, all this extra stuff did add more work. Yes, it did take me away. I've definitely gone much slower than if I had just focused on writing the novel, shut the door, and just done that. But these other things have been fun. First of all, it's fun to interact with you and get people to find my work. But it's also helpful in the long run nobody else is going to do this work for me. I don't have an advertising team. I don't have a budget for that. It's just me. So unless I talk about what I'm writing and what I'm creating, then nobody's going to know about it. And that's sad. The final lesson is, and maybe you suspected this, but consistency is king. Despite working with the AI and the struggles that I had in the beginning, I was able to finish an 80K manuscript for this novel in 56 days. And not all of those, after 21, I was kind of doing this system where some of the chapters were AI produced. Some of them were AI assisted, where I talk about the method that I used. I used dictation on some of these. I did a lot of experimental things in writing this manuscript. And then, of course, some of the chapters I just hand wrote in my spiral here, actually. This is one of the chapters that I hand wrote while I was moving. And so by using all these different methods, it doesn't really matter what method I used. What mattered was that day after day, I was showing up to write this story, especially on the days where I was sick, which, of course, when you're sick, maybe you don't feel like writing. I know I didn't, and I could barely get a paragraph done on those days. There were days where I didn't have reliable access to the internet. And those were also challenging days where it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll just have to handwrite, which of course is slower, which means I have to go back and transcribe it, which is what I spent a couple of hours doing today. It's just the nature of the beast. But it's really saying that I want to write this novel. There's going to be no excuses for me to show up to the page or to the screen, whatever you call it, for me to at least make progress on it. And I'm glad I have. The story is in a place where I feel like the story is complete. It's really just the mechanics, and that's a great place to be from a novel writing perspective, because in the first draft, the story could still kind of go whatever way it wants until you finish, and then you have more of a clear picture once you get to the first draft, and then you can just go about refining and changing some things, but the main things kind of stick. So what do you think about this milestone? Have you ever lasted 100 days writing a novel? Let me know in the comments. What do you think? What did you learn from the experience? I mean, this is, as I've gotten older and as I've spent more time doing creative projects, this is where it's at. There's a lot of distractions online. I was just scrolling YouTube before I started recording this, and there's just so many things telling you what you should be learning, what you should be doing, how you're doing it wrong, or whatever you're doing. And all those voices can just really get in your head and get you away from doing the thing that you know you should be doing. And if you're watching this video, it's likely you should be writing a novel. So I'm Keith Hayden. Thanks for listening to or watching this video. Don't forget to check out keithhayden.net. I've got the Digital Novelist Explorer. In that, you're going to find all these types of goodies. You're going to find a work kit that I've put together that's going to give you all these resources, all of them that I've used to become a better writer. Discounts. You're also going to find just good stuff in there. I've put a lot of thought and work into this, offering you something that will help you get started on your novel writing journey. And I just remembered what I was going to say. The 7-day mini email course I've put together, Novel Writing Start, it's going to get you going. It's going to get you past those early hang-ups that you might have when starting to write your novel. But I really appreciate you watching this video. I'd like to give a shout out to everyone that is on my email list on my website. I'm starting to do this thing where I'm going to start mentioning your name at the end of these videos, because I really, really appreciate your help and just supporting me. I'm at that point to where not a lot of people know who I am. Not a lot of people, of course, are into writing novels, but I'm really passionate about telling stories, telling original stories. And if you have an idea for an original story, then I want to help you bring it to life. And whether that's helping you directly or just helping you by showing you an example of me writing my novel, or with some type of product or download, I call them download of lessons learned, like this one that I've made. So go in and check those out, keithhayden.net, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.